you want to go ahead and kick us off.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. My name is Jan Davies and I am with Friendswood ISD. And we are so excited to be hosting this again with Consolidated Planning Group. We welcome Michelle Morris here to present to us. This is being hosted by the school districts from Galveston and Brazoria counties. And so we're excited to have you join us. Thank you, Michelle.
Well, I'm so excited to be here today, and thank you everybody for being here, and for Jan and the school districts over there at Friendswood, Brazoria, all of that, Galveston County. Thank you for hosting us. We are very proud and honored to serve the special needs community and to be a part of helping to educate and advocate for families. So we do webinars all the time to help out with things like that. A couple of quick housekeeping items before we jump right into this. We are recording this webinar, and we're going to send you a link to the recording once we're all finished this afternoon. Probably, like I said, later on today, maybe early tomorrow, but you should get it today. We're also going to send you the slides. So if there's anything that comes up on a slide that is a clickable link, you'll be able to click that when you get the slides later on. I also want to let you know that we are in webinar mode, which means that I cannot see you or hear you. I know you're out there though. And if you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and put those in the chat box. I am watching that while I'm presenting. So if I get distracted, that could be why. Also, if you put a question in the chat box and I don't answer it, it's probably because I'm seeing it and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, we're going to get to that in 2 or 3 more slides. Otherwise, I'll get to just as many questions as I possibly can. We're expected to go for an hour, and we have a ton of information today. So we're kind of going to be at a higher level and not get into every single detail, but of course you'll have my contact information and you can always reach out to me or to Jan if you have questions. Okay, so today our webinar is about the key steps to special needs planning and what you really need to do to be able to protect and maximize your child's future benefits. So how do you get started with special needs planning? So there are some things that you really need to think about as you're looking at, okay, how am I going to plan for the future of my child? First of all, you should develop a letter of intent. We're going to go into detail on this in a moment. Develop a letter of intent. You want to work with a special needs planner to help you formulate a plan, and that is what we do at Consolidated Planning Group. We are financial advisors, and we focus on helping families with special needs loved ones and special needs planning. We are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy as well. You want to gather together all of the planning documents that you already have in place so that they can be reviewed. And that includes your financial documents, your will, your trust, anything like that, really. I like to say that we kind of want to take that. Imagine that junk drawer in your kitchen if you have one of those. I don't know how organized you all are, but I know that I have one. You have that junk drawer in your kitchen. If you imagine that is your financial life, we want to shake it out, see what you have in there, see what works and what doesn't work, and organize it all and put it back together for you in a way that clears out the chaos and makes it easy to understand and to see what you have in place and what you need. And we want you, when you're just getting started with your special needs planning, to think about your vision of what the future looks like for your family and your special needs child. You know, do you envision them living with you as long as they possibly can? Do you envision them staying in school beyond age 18 in an 18+ program? Do you envision them going to a residential facility like Marbridge or Brookwood, or a program like Monarch or the Hub? There's so many possibilities out there. So what does it look like for you and your family and your child? So I mentioned on the previous slide that you should develop a letter of intent. What that is kind of a document that ensures that your trustee or the guardian of your child knows their abilities and their routines and interests and likes and dislikes. There are some things listed here that should be in your letter, but really what we're looking for is, if something were to happen to you and someone else needed to step in and take care of your child, what do they need to know? I would suggest that you start with the facts. You know, the family information, medical history, who the doctors are, what medications your child is on, what government benefits they receive, or things like that. What their history is in terms of education and employment. And that will help you flow into other areas of, essential information for your children. What do they love to do? What about hobbies and interests and spirituality and values? And who are their legal guardians? And do you have a special needs trust? And what do they need to be able to go to sleep at night? Do they need a special story or water every single night before they go to bed? What is their morning routine? What does that look like? I would suggest that you write this on a computer so that it is electronic, because that way it's going to be way easier to update as your family grows and evolves and things change and your child changes. But also it needs to be in a place where somebody who steps in can get a hold of it. So being behind a password protected computer screen might not be the best option. So I would suggest that you work on it on your computer and then print a version and put it in a binder maybe that is accessible. And then, as things change, maybe in 6 months, you revisit your letter of intent and work on it some more and make some changes, and then print the updated version and keep that handy. That's how I would suggest that you work on it. But do what feels right for you. One thing that we help people think about all the time, and something that is probably on your mind, is how are you going to fund your child's care in the future? So, we talk about these schools and these programs and these residential living facilities that are very expensive. And it can be quite a daunting number when you think about all of those years of paying for care. How are we going to fund that? So these are just some things that can help you. First of all, you want to make sure that you preserve the eligibility for state and federally funded programs like SSI and Medicaid. SSI right now is $841 a month. That's the maximum amount. Don't make any mistakes that are going to jeopardize those benefits. For example, if your child has more than $2,000 in their name, then they will not qualify for SSI benefits. If they make over about, I think it's $2,350, they won't qualify for waiver programs. You need to be careful and just make sure that you're watching out for those rules and regulations. And they do change year by year sometimes. But you want to make sure that they can get that federal and state funding to help care for them. You should establish a special needs trust for your child. This is one of 2 places that they can have money that will not affect their benefits. So your child can have money in a special needs trust that you set up. You'll need an attorney to do that, but they can have money there to help pay for their future care. You could use your current life insurance and your assets, retirement accounts or annuities or things like that to help provide funding for that special needs trust. And it's great because you could have as much money in there as you want. You could even have a corporate trustee rather than, putting that ask on a family member or something like that. Another place that you can have money without affecting your child's benefits is an ABLE account. It's another good option. You have most likely heard of a 529 college savings account. That's a 529C. The ABLE account is similar. It's a 529A, and you can use that money to help pay for things for your child. There are tax benefits in that the growth is not taxed, so that's good. So either of those places, you can put money and it won't affect their benefits. So a lot happens kind of quickly, especially when you're nearing your child's 18th birthday. Before that, you want to know what's coming and you want to have things in place and be planning and preparing for the future. But when they turn 18, it's like all of a sudden you have to make sure you do all this stuff. So here are some things that you need to apply for and keep in mind. So when your child turns 18, you need to apply for their SSI benefits. You should schedule an appointment just a couple months in advance with your local Social Security Administration office and apply for supplemental security insurance income. Your child probably will not qualify for SSI before their 18th birthday because they're looking at parents' income. So you cannot have more than $2,000, $3,000 if you're married, one house and one car. So $2,000 is such a low number, you can't really do much of anything with that. But once your child turns 18, they look at the child's income and assets. So as long as you have taken advantage of things like an ABLE account or a special needs trust, or your child just doesn't have any money to their name, then they should be able to qualify for their SSI benefits. You should have evidence that demonstrates that your child's disability began before age 22. And this is helpful for some of the benefits and some of the programs because they don't qualify if their disability started after that age. So that's important that you have records to prove that your child is disabled. You want to gather up their medical history, any doctors that they've seen, the address and phone numbers for those doctors, their history of their diagnoses, and whatever medications they might be on. You might also want to consider before you apply for your SSI benefits that you get in touch with their primary care physician and ask to see those records. See what is written in there and make sure that they have everything correct as it relates to their diagnosis. It's very important. I'm going to pause for a second and just remind everybody that this is being recorded. You will receive a link to the recording and you will receive these slides. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box and I'll get to as many of them as I can. All right, so back to my slides. There are benefits for your child, additional benefits when a parent retires, becomes disabled, or passes away. And what happens is that the child is able to draw off of their parents' records as a disabled adult child. They get half of the parent's benefit. So let's say you retire, you're in your late 60s or whatever, you retire and you're getting $4,000 a month from your Social Security benefit. At that time, when you turn on those benefits, your disabled adult child will be able to draw half of whatever your full retirement age benefit is. So if yours is $4,000, then your child will be able to get $2,000 a month. And it does not take away from what you get. So that's really cool. It also applies to minor children that are not disabled. So that's a benefit there if you're an older parent or something happens where you become disabled or someone passes away. What you need to know about that is that, like I said, it does not take away from your benefit, and your child gets that benefit for as long as they live. 24 months after you turn on those benefits for your child, they will be eligible for Medicare. Now, if they started drawing SSI, which is different, when they turn on their SSI when they turn 18, they get Medicaid with that. So if they turn that on first, and then a few years later or 20 years later, whatever the case may be, they start drawing this instead, then they, after 2 years, will qualify for Medicare. Once the parent passes away, then the child gets a bump up in their benefit up to 75%. So there are rules and regulations, of course, and there's family maximums. There's even a benefit that, if one parent is working and has the benefits and the other parent is not, they could get a benefit for a child in care. So there's a lot going on. We can help you sort through all of that confusion. So like I said, there are some rules and regulations, but it's a great benefit for your families and very good to be aware of. So in order to be entitled to RSDI, this is one of the things later in life. This is not your SSI, and I know it's clear as mud, right? But RSDI is your retirement, survivor, and disability insurance. So once your child is over the age of 18, and if their disability began before age 22, their parent has worked and put money into the Social Security system, the child cannot be married and they cannot have previously worked themselves, then they'll be entitled to RSDI benefits when their parents turn on their benefits. There's also something called SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. So that is, first of all, you have to apply for it. You have to be found to be medically disabled, and you have to be fully insured. And you're insured for whatever your disability status is. And you're not working currently, or if you're working, you're not earning more than $13.50 a month, then you would qualify for SSDI. There are also other programs, the Title II program, your SSA, that's your Social Security retirement benefits. RSDI is the Retirement, Survivors, and Disability Insurance. SSDI is Social Security Disability Insurance. There's the CDB, which used to be called DAC, Disabled Adult Child, but now they call it CDB, Childhood Disability Benefits. And one more acronym you need to know is the DWB, Disabled Widower Benefits. So if your spouse passes away and you become a widow, there are benefits for you as well. So how do you protect those benefits that your child might be entitled to? First of all, you have to make sure that your child's money is in the right places. Like I said, there are income limits and asset limits. And if you mess those up, then your child will not qualify for benefits. And it can be kind of hairy making sure that you have money in the right places. You need to ensure that, for example, if you have life insurance, your child who has special needs is not listed as the beneficiary on your life insurance policy or on your bank accounts or investments or annuities or retirement accounts, nothing. Because if something happens to you and your child gets that money, they will no longer qualify for benefits. So using my own child's name as an example, on my life insurance, I should not say, the beneficiary is Evan Morris. It should say the beneficiary is the special needs trust for the benefit of Evan Morris. And then those funds won't count against him. And that's something to consider for any minor child, because there are not very many children, even though they're brilliant, there are not very many children who would know what to do with a large sum of money coming in. My son, Evan, for example, he's a really smart kid. He's a good kid, and he loves classic cars. He's 18. If he inherited a large amount of money right now, would he do everything correctly to take care of himself? Possibly. Would he also spend some of that money on a great classic car? Possibly. So think about who you're leaving the money to, and if they have the capacity to be able to deal with a large sum of money. Ensure also that if you have any well-meaning family members in your life who are aging, maybe your parents or aunts and uncles or anybody who might want to help out your child, make sure that they understand these rules too. And you don't want to assume that they're going to leave money for your child, but you do want to make sure that if it's a possibility, that they do it correctly. When you're thinking about the special needs trust and guardianship, when do you need that and why would you need that? So the special needs trust, again, is another place where you can put money that it won't affect their benefits, but it can help provide the resources that your child is going to need. If guardianship is something that is in your mind for the future, you can start applying for guardianship when you are within 6 months of your child's 18th birthday. Now, both of these things, your special needs trust and guardianship, will require the help of an attorney. And it's really best to make sure you have a special needs focused attorney who knows what they're doing, not just someone who can do it or has done it once or twice in the past. You need an expert because these are very specialized situations. So you want an expert attorney and an expert planner to prepare these documents for you. And also, your attorney can help with your will, powers of attorney, trusts, things like that, guardianship, of course. So I did mention the ABLE account, that you can have money there. You can put money into an ABLE account. There are over 40 different ABLE accounts across the United States, and you can use any one of them. They're not all created equally. Some of them are really easy to sign up for, and some of them you have to jump through more hoops. Some of them give you kind of a credit card, or they link with your bank account to make it easy to get your money. And others, it's a little bit more difficult. Some of them do a really, really great job of investing your money and growing that money. Others aren't quite hitting the returns that you should be seeing. So you have to do some research. We recommend American Funds, and we can help you sign up for that, but you don't have to use that one. Anyone can put money into the ABLE account for your child. They have to be disabled, and the disability for an ABLE account needs to have started before age 26. So you can put $16,000 each year into an ABLE account, but you don't want to put more than $100,000 total, because that will affect their benefits. If your child works, they can put in additional funds up to $12,880 per year. But again, you do not want to go over $100,000 in your ABLE account, because that could affect their benefits. So the distributions are not taxable, which is great, and they can use it for many, many things. We're about to talk about that. It grows tax-free, and you can even change your investments around, do what you want. You can roll over the ABLE account to another family member as long as they qualify, which means that they also have to have a disability that began before age 26. And you have to remember that at death, the state can claim reimbursement for Medicaid reimbursement. So if you have a lot of money left in the ABLE account and the child passes away, or adult at that point passes away, Medicaid might be able to draw back some of that money. But whatever's left after Medicaid takes their share, they feel like they've been giving you help all this time. This is their one chance to get a little bit back. But then you can roll it over to other family members who are eligible, or you can give it to a different beneficiary. The ABLE account can pay for almost really anything that makes the life of a disabled person better. So housing is great for paying for rent, financial management, administrative services, transportation. Even if they need an Uber to get to work or something like that, you can use your ABLE account. Education and training, classes, job coaches, mentoring, any assistive technology like their iPhone or laptop, personal support services, legal expenses, utilities, food, day-to-day living type of things. Is there a required form to prove that you have a disabled adult child, or is it just medical records? You need to get those medical records, and usually they'll require a letter or information from your doctor. So when you apply, you call and you apply, and they send your information to a disability determination servicing center, and they look at your file and help determine whether or not you qualify for the disability. These are items that a special needs trust can pay for. Again, we're going to send you these slides so you'll be able to look at these too again, because it's kind of important that you remember that. Let me go back one slide. The ABLE account can pay for housing. Special needs trust should not pay for housing. Why? Because if the Social Security Administration sees that you're using your trust to pay for housing, utilities, gas bill, food, or you're getting cash from your special needs trust, then they're going to say, oh, you have all that money to help you pay, so you don't need us to help you pay for housing, because that's what your SSI benefits are meant for. If you use your ABLE account, they don't mind, but they can charge you up to a third reduction in your SSI benefits if you use your special needs trust to pay for daily living things like this next slide. Cannot pay for rent, mortgage payments, real estate taxes, gas, electricity, utility bills, insurance, condo charges, cash, food, or you can't buy anything that the trustee did not approve. So it's just important to know. And it's not that you cannot pay for these things, but you don't want to, because then you'll have reduced benefits. Okay, so keep an eye on what money should come from where and which buckets it needs to be in. Another thing that I know keeps parents up at night is worrying about who is going to care for your child when you're gone. Thinking about that now is going to help answer these questions and help you reduce that stress and reduce the amount of panic that happens when you pass away. You should consider touring facilities early, like Brookwood and Marbridge Foundation and Daymark Living. We have hosted a residential panel in the past, and we're going to have another one in about 3 weeks, where we talk to these different facilities and We let them present, short little snippets about themselves so that you can hear from multiple facilities and learn about them. So we've had one that's on our YouTube channel, and we have another one coming up. Sometimes they do have wait lists. Sometimes they don't accept everybody because maybe they're not equipped to handle certain medical issues, or maybe they're not equipped to handle certain behavioral issues. So you want to find out ahead of time what they are equipped to handle and what facility might be the best for you. And then check and see if they have a wait list, and get on that wait list as soon as possible. You want to be very careful, we think, about just saying, okay, well, Evan, your older brother is just going to take care of you, when we pass away. Well, that's an option, but it's not always the best option. You don't want to force anyone or have this obligatory relationship. Of course, they love their sibling, but they have their own lives as well, and you want them to have their own lives and be able to do their own things. You want them to have a loving, supportive relationship, not an obligation. So just be careful. Another thing that we help families with that you need to be thinking about is the waiver programs here in Texas. Waivers can be a way that you can get some help paying for therapies or medications or more transportation, things like that. There are 3 numbers that you can call to get on the waiting list for waivers. The first number you see there is for MDCP, class, and DMBD waivers. Now, MDCP is for medically dependent children. This is a rather narrow waiver. Not everybody qualifies because they have to be medically fragile. Class is a very broad waiver. Everybody on this call should have their name on the class waiting list. DBMD, again, is a narrow waiver, deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities. And I think the next slide talks about what these all are individually. But my point is that even if you don't qualify for MDCP, the medically dependent, or DBMD, which is deaf and blind, you qualify for class. So you need to call this phone number and make sure that your child is on the wait list for these waivers. The second section, HCS, that's home and community-based services, Texas Home Living, and Community First Choice. These waivers are very broad. You need to be on this list. And for these lists, what you need to do is contact your local intellectual and developmental disability authority. Who is that? Well, you can look them up right here. This link will be clickable when you get the slides. And this is your local authority would be like the Harris Center if you're in the Houston area. Bluebonnet is one, MHMR, Texoma, Texana, things like that, names that you might have heard in the past. And then the bottom phone number, so everybody on this call should call the first phone number and should contact their LIDA or LIDA by finding their local authority at this link and contact them as well. Star Plus is for children, young adults who are 21 and up. So if your child is 21 and up or getting very close, it's a short wait list. So if they're very close to being 21, you want to call this phone number on the bottom. So let's talk about some of these waivers and what they do. Class, like I said, this applies to almost everybody. Everybody on this call should get on the class wait list. And it gives home and community-based supports to children and adults with related conditions, with a disability. There are over 200 different related conditions that they consider. And as long as the disability began before age 22, then you can qualify. So as you can see, anybody with a disability pretty much can qualify for class. It's going to be a long wait time. DBMD is you have to be deaf and blind and have another disability, or you have to be on your way to being deaf and blind. If you have vision loss and hearing impairment and you're almost deaf or almost blind, both actually, deaf and blind, then you can qualify for that one. Home and community-based services, another very broad program, another very long waiting list. Children and adults with intellectual disabilities or a related condition. They can live with their families or in their own homes or in a small group home, as long as there's not more than 4 people. Medically dependent children program, that MDCP, like I said, this is for medically fragile children under the age of 20. If you're on MDCP and you turn 21, then you're flipped over to STAR Plus, which is for medically fragile adults, 21 and above. Texas Home Living is another broad program helping give services to children and adults with an intellectual disability who live in their own home or their family's home, not a group home. And Youth Empowerment Services is a program more for serious emotional and behavioral issues. So there's a lot to consider, a lot that you might qualify for. And like I said, some of the lists can be very long, so you want to get on them as quickly as possible if you aren't already.
Hey, Michelle, we have
Yes.
a question in the chat.
Oh, thank goodness. I do see one question in the chat. If are you talking about the form required to prove that they're a disabled adult child?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I already talked about that a little bit, and I think answered that question, that you're going to have to call and provide what they ask for, basically. And it is going to be medical records. And if there is a special form that they need, they'll send it to you. But typically, as long as you have those medical records, you should be just fine. Okay, so educational options beyond high school. You know, your kid is in school. Is the YES program only for kids with Medicaid? When your child qualifies for one of these waivers, typically they get Medicaid as well. So if you qualify for the waiver, you're probably going to qualify for Medicaid. And you have to keep your Medicaid eligibility. So yes. Your kid is in high school. Sometimes, yes, when they're 18, okay, we have another question in the chat box. So I want to discuss this without just answering it, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. So the question is the YES program only for kids with Medicaid? My answer to that is, when you sign up for the waiver programs, you have to be Medicaid eligible in order to get a waiver. So there are eligibility rules of income and things like that. When you get your waiver, whether your child is 18 or not, because they can get a waiver when they're younger than 18, it's just that it doesn't typically happen because the waiting lists are so long. But whenever they do qualify for a waiver, then they should be able to qualify for Medicaid as well. So they'll get both. Okay. So after high school, there's a lot of different options out there. We don't work for any of these programs. And if they're not eligible, okay. What if they're not eligible for Medicaid because they're under their parents' assets and income? Medicaid does not look at the parents' assets and income. It only looks at the child. Okay. So we do have another webinar that is solely about waiver programs and SSI and Medicaid, you could refer to that webinar for a more thorough discussion on that, but I'm going to go ahead and move on now. We don't work for any of these programs, and they don't work for us. We don't get any referral bonuses or anything like that, but these are some good programs in the area that might be a good option for your child. And, you know, don't compare your child to others, because nobody is on the same path in life. There's very different paths and different opportunities out there. But there are great things like the Metamorphosis program at Lynn University, Non-Periel Institute, Aggie Achieves program at A&M, the CASE program at Texas Tech. I've heard that the Texas State in San Marcos is going to start a program next year that is supposed to be very similar to Aggie Achieve. There's the E4 Texas program at UT, the WTLC program Where the Learning Continues at A&M in Canyon. So there are a lot of great options here in Texas and all over the country. You might want to check out a website called Think College. I will put that in the chat box. I believe it's thinkcollege.net. If anyone checks and wants to correct me on that, please do. But this will help you see other college availability for your children. And there might be a good college experience program for them that's not, you know, the same as a full-time college experience. It might not be right for them. So there's a lot of options out there. All right. And these are, you know, some more topics that we discuss and talk about, things that we have webinars on. And it's really important to get together with your local schools, like the Galveston and Brazoria County school districts. They're so helpful in, you know, bringing us in and helping us to be able to present this information to you. Mm-hmm. They have programs and they have resources for you as well. There's a lot of great information out there. And they're going to be presenting a parent training on Medicaid waivers later on this year. So they'll be able to get you the date for that as well. So we've talked about developing your comprehensive special needs care plan. You need to think about your future care costs. What do those schools cost, or living facilities, Monarch, Brookwood, Marbridge? What does that cost, and how much is it going to cost for your child to live there for 20 years or you know, however long they need it? Make sure that you're on those waiver lists. Understanding the differences between SSI, SSDI, and RSDI, and when you need to apply for those. ABLE accounts, beneficiary designations. These are all things we've talked about today. If you have questions, we are always here to chat with you and answer your questions about any of these topics. How you're going to get your special needs trust funded. An attorney has to help you set it up, but we can help you make sure there's money to put into it. Again, you want to start touring those residential living facilities early, like around age 15. We would hate for you to wait and take all that time and effort to find the perfect facility and you're all ready to go, and then you find out that there's a 10-year waiting list. Ugh. So check those things out early. If you're considering guardianship, powers of attorney, supported decision-making, you need an attorney to help you with that. And I'm going to mention that the law for that is that you go with the least restrictive option. So the option that will fit your family, that has the least amount of restrictions on your child. That's what the law requires. There are lots of post-high school options out there for you to look at. And again, waiting lists for waivers, which I've already mentioned. Again, I want to thank the Galveston and Brazoria County schools. listed here for helping to sponsor this meeting and advertise this meeting, really. I mean, we do these for free to educate the community and to help everyone understand what they can do to help their children. So it's not a sponsorship in that sense of the word, but they do help advertise and bring us to you and let you all know that we're here. Okay, so I have a question. Did you say the ABLE account can or cannot be used to pay for utilities? ABLE can be used for utilities and housing and cash and whatever you need. The Special Needs Trust should not be used for utilities or housing or cash. This is our team at Consolidated Planning Group. Two husband and wife pairs, Allison and Jeff, are the owners of the company. They have 2 special needs children, so that's why we do what we do. And then there's myself, my glamour shot, and my husband. We have 2 kids, ages 18 and 21. They're not special needs, but they do make us crazy. Meredith helps plan and prepare all of these webinars. We are members of the Academy of Special Needs Planners, and we're also National Social Security advisors. So how do you get in touch with us? Here you go. We offer a free consultation. I like to just call it a chat. You set up a chat with us. We're going to answer any questions that we can for you. We're going to get to know your family a little bit, what you're dealing with, and what's going on with your child. And then we're going to tell you a little bit about us and how we work and what we charge and stuff like that. And see from there if we would be a good fit if you want to go forward working with us. So that free chat, really, we can answer most of your questions, help you sleep a little bit better at night, find out what really is on your mind and what your hopes and dreams are. You can use the QR code. If you use the QR code, it will take you directly to our calendar system, and you can just set up an appointment right there. If the QR code isn't your thing, there's the phone number and email address for our office. You can set up an appointment that way too. I've also got our links for Facebook and YouTube. Like I said before, all of our webinars that we do are recorded and they're put on our YouTube channel. They're always free. So you can check those out at your convenience. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, and I will have just a few more minutes left so I can leave this slide up and check out your questions if you have anything else. I saw one person raised their hand, but like I said, if you put your question in the chat box, I'll be able to get to it. Otherwise, I hope that you have a great weekend. It's Friday, so we can all relax and sleep in a little bit over the weekend, I hope. I hope you have some fun plans. If you need anything, feel free to set up a chat with our office or call. My email address, I put that in the chat box right at the beginning. It's mmorris@cpgcares.com if you want to reach me directly. And with that, I suppose I will say goodbye, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your, I do see a question really quick. What's better, class or HCS? They're the same. They're basically the same. Just get on the list and whichever one comes up first, take it. They'll basically cover the same things. Have a great weekend. Let me know if you have questions in the future. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.